inside here, you know, you get an insight and you know something, you know, but you don't want to say it out loud because you're kind of afraid that it's not going to be really true and it'll spoil the whole thing for you, you know. But when somebody makes you say it, then, and it's true, then it just makes it more beautiful of a thing.
Lots of love. Love. Got 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 lots of love. Love.
Trying to find an angle they can, trying to find somebody out of position.
We're gonna go through on this. Oh, what a roll! We're gonna take black. White gonna go in.
It's going to be a really, really interesting one.
Oh my god. All of this competition could be so damn close, so I cannot wait for us to finally decide who's going to be the champion. We are expecting some chaos, some great moments.
A beast mode has killed 3. Only gonna really need that rampage, so it's gonna clear it out. Santi gonna get themselves a big old 4K. Oh. Santi getting rid of 3, clearing out the house.
That is crazy.
Nunji actually kills 3 people.
This team feels entirely different on this faster composition. Now Saga is hanging around, getting onto the high ground. Post bomb's gonna stick on the Leaky. They're not gonna be able to survive it at the end of the day. Blue manages to find a 3K.
Rio shoving this Ana into a corner. Woo! One more for the road for Rio.
That is all signs go. Melophobia with 3 Melophobia. Start the fight. They'll end the fight. Oh my god. Beagle Bus, they have to play aggressively into this energy. Popping off in a moment where you needed just that. Ruby in that backline. Oh, the flick. Looking for it. Oh my goodness. The 4th one as well. Do they get the ace? They get the ace.
Ladies and gentlemen, it has been a long, treacherous season for all of these teams involved, but in terms here in the EUPC tier, there are only 3 teams remaining. One has already locked in their spot into the grand finals, and today we will decide who their opponent is going to be. Will it be 0907 or will it be Completely Melted? It's something we're gonna have to see, and thank you all for joining us here today. I am Hunter Tane, brought to you in part by Spectreon, of course, and Spectreon could be in for a banger today because the last time these 2 teams faced each other, they went the complete distance.
Yeah, right. That was in winners round 1, of course. 3-2 going in favor of Completely Melted. Of course, that just kicked 0907 off on their lower bracket run, where they've only dropped a single map. 3-0, the Turquoise Wisps. 3-1, the Big Man Ting. Most recently, clean 3-0, the Everfrog. And all that to make it to this losers round 4, this losers final. These 2 teams playing for a chance to play against Yurei Mirai in that grand final spot and the chance to win a share of the $1,000 prize pool. Of course, for Completely Melted, they want this rematch more than anything else. That game between Yurei Mirai and Completely Melted came down to the absolute wire. Literal centimeters deciding who ended up taking that one, especially when it came down to that push map of Esperanza. And that's going to be something that they're going to really be wanting. Flip side of things, of course, 0907. They are fresh off the back of a championship in Face It League. They have beat the best of the best. Played against many of these teams that we see here in our CGL open bracket and won up against them. And so they're looking to do it again here for an additional little chunk of the pie.
Yeah, you would love to see it. You have to get some level of confidence when you go into Face the League and literally go in and win the division you're in. It's not an easy thing to do by any means. There's a ton of teams always rallying to try to take that top spot. But either way, gives you some confidence going in. Again, it's the point I try to make a lot, Spectreon, is give a team that has made a big run into the lower bracket, winning 3 straight games down here, only dropping that 1 map. And then a team that unfortunately gets taken down, takes their first loss in the playoffs. And now it's the question of who's going to react better for that situation. But Spectreon, very familiar with both of these teams at this point. I've seen them compete multiple times throughout the season on stream, but always have to introduce them because you take a look at both these rosters and they are stacked beyond belief.
Yeah, that's one way of putting it. Most definitely, they're both absolutely insane rosters. Take a gander at 0907 first because, of course, they are, you know, in some ways still going to be our favorites. Obviously, they were the ones who lost that previous matchup, but, you know, having that win in Face It is just such a huge boon. I've got to say, Condi has been absolutely on fire on that hit scan role, but I feel like the main core of 0907 has always been this kind of tank backline core. Willies, Jonowich, Doki have been together for, you know, what feels to me now like donkey's years, and that synergy is something we can expect to see in the server. And their opponents, of course, going to be Completely Melted. Again, a team that's been together for a decent amount of time, completing under, I believe, Everfrost, and before that, Flex Zodiacs. I will say the most standout members of this team to me are probably Kurama in terms of the raw mechanics, in terms of the raw fragging potential. I think that in CGL EU Open, there's not really an equal.
Yeah, I honestly, I can't go against that statement, and not because I'm an NA head or anything, but I just have to agree in that situation. But it's going to come down between these teams right now and kind of the small mistakes that they're both going to make, because I'm really excited to see Depsy over on this tank. See that tank battle, because we finally have exited the realm where Malga is the absolute must-pick forward tanks right now. So it's going to give a big opportunity for these tanks to kind of flex around a little bit more, show their comfortability a bit more. And especially, I got to double down on these supports as well. Brigino's still very strong, but as the meta keeps changing, who knows? Maybe eventually we'll get to a point where that is not the locked-in duo, but we'll get there when we get there, Spectrum. But either way, it's a match that we are excited for today. Should be one that will attempt to replicate its first outing and go the distance, but we have seen it go a couple of different ways when we have that conversation, Spectrum. Some games do duplicate and get back to that map 5, and sometimes you've learned your opponent and you realize, okay, we know what to do here. We've had times where it just becomes a 3-0 outing instead.
Yeah, I obviously predicting this game is going to be very tricky. Obviously, as you mentioned, Hunter, Malga is no longer the be-all, end-all of tank picks, but still absolutely viable. I think we've still been seeing that. Obviously, we've had Face-It playoffs and Calling the Heroes over this weekend, so we've had more than enough time to get acclimatized to what many teams are going towards, and it is obviously a little bit more DPS-centered, with the changes to the DPS passive and the buffs to Sojourn in particular. We're moving a lot more towards Soj Genji DPS lines, which very much is going to favor a team, in my opinion, like Completely Melted, who do just have that raw frag ability. I do think, in theory, on 907 would have been a little bit stronger on that previous patch, purely because of having that strong backline, that strong synergy in between their tanks. But once we actually get into the action, we'll actually just have to wait and see, because all that could have been said, but somebody could have a strong game. I mean, I think we all got to see Senna play through that Queen's Gambit Calling the Heroes run, right? Just absolutely on fire. And we kind of are in a back of the state of the game, right? Where a Sojourn can make or break your chances towards glory.
Yeah, 100%. That's the one thing I break to make up a lot. If there's one kind of role that has the ability to, well, be flexible and kind of show off different things, it is that DPS role. And Sojourn being as good as she is nowadays, it's kind of hard not to just put your best player over on that role and see what they can do. We've seen many examples already throughout the last couple of weeks, not just in CGL, but across the entire Overwatch esports scene. And of course, gonna see if they can make it happen here, because gonna be starting on Control Center. The perhaps the most difficult point, I would say, to take angles either way. But to be fair, regardless of it all, it doesn't seem like either team is currently representing the Sojourn at this moment.
Yeah, that it does. I think it's very fair to see Soj being played for the most part, but obviously you mentioned both teams are not going towards it. I would expect to see changes. Ash on these sidelines is very uncomfortable. I know, yeah, it's just not going to work. Decrease about on the Sojourn, so is Condi. It's going to work out a lot better. Queen Mirror looks to be played pretty EU-pilled, if I do say so myself. We'll see how it works out once these teams get into the full mirror.
Yeah, it's a full mirror right now. We're not used to seeing a full mirror that isn't a Malga style right here, but Willie's is going to go down pretty instantaneously, unfortunately. But D-Cruz, with that pick, going to give their team some room to work right now. But Daki not content to let this play come to an end right now. Is definitely going to get forced out of the fight right now. Regardless, point setup is currently in favor of Completely Melted, but they are at a disadvantage now. It's all about whether or not 0907 wants to commit back to the point, try to make it happen, and they will, but the flip is going to happen. And for 0907, do we a quicker because they're ready to go back in.
Yeah, they're looking to go in very quickly as well, taking this wide angle with this Sojourn, just looking for a noggin to find. So far, they haven't got it, but they force cart instead.
Oh, yeah, right there. We're nearly about to get it. Condi just happens to be in a bad place there. Gets dove in by Koroma, and unfortunately, it's going to fall apart potentially from there right now as Bones trying their darndest to stay alive right now, hanging around with John, which unfortunately going to fall on the end of the day. That fight's going to come to an end. And unfortunately for Willie, this might be a very slow, prolonged death.
It's a bit of a risky move to go for that really wide swing. If Condi finds a head with that rail, then you find an immense amount of value. But if you don't, you're exposing yourself to an incredible amount of spam damage, right? Positional disadvantage, and very little to show for it. So on 907, obviously losing both that first cap and that extended fight has left them significantly behind in terms of that point percentage. Pay as well attention to the ult charge, mirroring out that rally, or not that rally, yeah, beat, sorry, and that rampage is going to be hugely important.
Yep, double rush going to be used for engagement right now. Clem's going to use very quickly right now as you're going to see the beat being invested. Unfortunately, going to be a little too late to save D-Cruz in that situation. So, going to see the disadvantage right now is 0907 almost refusing to use any of the rolls unless they absolutely have to right now. And it looks like it's this way where they might not have to, as Epsi's going to invest on the beat, eventually be forced out by Janowicz just to make sure they keep the rest of their team alive. Unfortunately, the numbers game is eventually going to play its factor away. 0907 extremely patient with the ultimates on that fight and now go into the next fight with the advantage.
Such a good ult trade there. Because Rod FD beats for the engage, then Willies is now going to have this Rampage for free. It's a Doki cleanse or it's a fight win for 0907. All the pressure now on that Kiriko as we shape up through the choke. Completely Melted have left themselves behind, but with both DPS ults still online, there's still room for an individual moment, an individual to step up.
Yep, 100% right now. D-Cruz could be that person right now. Kurama in the same conversation. Both ults are online between that overclock and the Blade right now. Blade gonna get activated now. Kandi gonna get hunted down at the end of the day. And right now, D-Cruz helping clear things around. The Blade, though, being used by Bones back, seeing if they can find something. And right now, it is the trade out 2-2 right now. But again, 0907 gonna come up the victors of this one. Do invest in the extra ultimate in that situation, but you can't be mad right now. You're killing time. At the very least, they should be able to at least tie the current percentile of Completely Melted.
Yeah, that is going to be essentially a definite, right? And they still get to save through that all-important Rampage. Again, it's still the same matchup. Again, Rod FD is somewhat struggling to build towards this sound barrier. Jonowich is close to another one, I gotta say, really outpacing his counterpart in this particular matchup. And 0907 seems so much more confident when they're in the defensive side.
Yeah, much more right now, but that seemed like a bit of an investment there, Jonowich. Very lucky to have not gone down in that situation. Right now is already Grama has been taken care of. Be going to be invested by Jonowich to double down on this fight. If they can find Dempsey, this would be devastating. The cleanse does come through. Unfortunately, not going to quite find anything. His 3Qs will take one on the way out, so a reset really quick here for Completely Melted.
Yeah, you exchange rails, trade 1 for 1, but closer spawns for Completely Melted mean they can retake the space. 0907 angling for a point fight. Gonna have to go fast if they want to outpace this Rod FD beat now.
Ooh, that is not the start you're hoping for right there. But the bright side is everybody who has an ult coming online is still ready to go. But right now, here it comes right now. The cleanse gonna get everybody except for Dempsey right now, who's gonna get the beat placed on top of them right now. As the point's going to eventually flip over in time right now. You see right now, everybody kind of staggered here in the backline right now. Only one touching the point, and now it's gonna be very messy, Spectron, because they're gonna go for it right now. Dempsey gonna risk going for it, trying to get rid of Willies. It's gonna work out at the end of the day. And here comes the clear out, and now Spectron. The question is, who's gonna touch?
A touch should be a possibility, right? So many active members are Completely Melted, and they're disciplined enough to not give over any frags. Willies on that Doomfist needs to get here absolutely in time. Bones, the hero. 5% off this blade could be huge.
Yeah, and Willie's going to go over to that Doomfist, some extra sustainability, be able to maneuver around right now as Bones is going to go for the blade right now. He's going to get rid of one, but it needs to be more than that. It's going to get taken out. Unfortunate situation. And while that point does get a little bit of percentage slipped over, it's not going to cause the blade to go through. Completely Melted. Going to gain back the point, going to take this first point away, but already, Spectron, the strengths and discomforts of this team is becoming very apparent early on.
Yeah, we mentioned this game was likely to be a pretty close one, and at least on Control Center, right, it's as close as can be, coming down to what feels like individual moments more than anything else to, you know, just get Completely Melted over the line, but get over the line they do. And here, a little bit longer sightlines perhaps on Markets. Maybe there's a little bit more chance to Kondi to have that kind of stand-up performance that at this point we've come to expect from him, right? It's somewhat hard to find impact on that hit scan in Control Center. It's enclosed, you have like 2 angles you can possibly take. Here though, we'll see if the hit scan of 0907 can find his voice as we double TP out, both Sims swap over to the Genji, and we stop this mirror once again.
Yep, love to see the mirror right now. No excuses for counterpicks or anything of the like. Comes down to that pure skill and pure utility right now. Jonowich gonna get pulled out, but it's actually Daki who's gonna go down first and foremost right there. So already falling apart for 0907. Similar to how that first round went, struggled to kind of get out the gate. Now the question, Spectron, is will they be able to bounce back and attack a point that is sometimes very difficult to engage into?
Well, I mean, the stagger onto Jonowich doesn't make it any easier. I'll put it that way, right? That's going to be an extra 5-10 seconds off the bank. That's 0907 are simply going to have to wait for. But I guess silver lining that fight being so fast, there's no chance for an ult snowball from taking them off kind of guards. They do, however, have to break through the choke, though, figure out whether they want to swing right or left.
Yeah, 100% right now. See a bit of the aggression already as they're going to be forced to back away because Willie goes in with that shout, and he's going to get a little bit more space, but it's all about finding this opening pick right now, making sure you secure all of the health of your players so you can go in and have the best fight possible. And the knife needs to try to find some success for either Dempsey or for Willie's in this situation. As you can see right now, the angle's being taken away. Shout ready. Willie's got to extend it very early to be able to give themselves a good fighting chance in this situation right now. Knife not quite going to connect his bones. Gonna get taken out by their counterpart here as Dempsey going to be forced into the outside right now, but the numbers game is going to play its factor at the end of the day. So another fight win for Completely Melted. It. 1 out of 7 struggling to get onto this point.
Yeah, Completely Melted did a fantastic job kiting there. When you noticed 0907 walking in, okay, they might find some exit frags, so hold the thought for a second, but yeah, we'll be able to back up. So yeah, 0907 sent their Genji Lucio through that left side flank to try and sandwich the back, but Completely Melted just backed 5 people into the entirety of that kind of backside area. It's so hard to find an elimination at that point, and once they found an advantage, they just pounced onto Willies in main.
Ooh. Yeah, they're not letting up at all right now. Cleanse has to use it right now, so Kurama not going to find any value, but it is buying precious time. But Tom X is going to go down first and foremost right now is the solid boop onto Condi. Going to take care of business right now as 0907 with their best opportunity. The biggest thing is not to blow too many ults right now, but it's already Completely Melted, thinking that they can end this right here and now with that feed. But all it's doing is potentially prolonging the inevitable, so 89% 0907 will take over the point, but are not allowed to lose another.
It's some respite at least, right? But it's not what you love to see. The silver lining, you only spent the Kitsune Rush, of course. You can really try and start being economical with these fights now. See exactly how they elect to kind of structure this, right? You can go with a Rampage first, perhaps try and use your DPS ults afterwards.
Yeah, but everybody's out right now, but instead it's going to be the double overclock. Jello, which is going to go down first and foremost. Now what you want to see right now is D-Cruz is going to get spearheaded right in the face, but has the backup of their squad with them as the point starting to flip over to Completely Melted right now. It looks like nobody's going to be able to realistically contest, and at this point, now people are going to be forced to go to the point, which is honestly, it's going to be advantageous for Completely Melted because it's going to force them to all convene on the point.
Incredible amounts of value there from Kurama, but the fight's still ongoing.
Oh. Yeah, that's a beat invest, and that's a boop that might get something. Looks like everyone's going to be able to survive for the time being right now as Bones coming back in with this blade. Needs to be the hero of this team right now. Goes in, going to try to hack and slash away, but the cleanse comes in at the most unopportune time possible right there. Now Kurama, rest of this Completely Melted team, trying to clear things away right now as Willies and Daki fighting for their life right now as Condi's going to go and help out. Unfortunately, the numbers game eventually is going to cause to be too much as the point going to flip over. Will we get the retouch as the overtime will activate on its own? Unfortunately, it is all about the game of stall Spectrum. They're going on 1 at a time. Unfortunately, Completely Melted dictating the pace and taking this one away and will have an early lead in the series.
Yeah, a little bit more commanding from them on Night Market, but it's still able to be competitive. It's still able to be back and forth, and we are still able to see both sides really take pretty good swings at one another. Obviously, the Haymaker connecting for the winning side, as we see here. Completely Melted doing a great job. But I do think so much of their ability to win, right, is just getting on the board first, winning a couple of good fights, and snowballing it from there. Because in terms of how they're playing, I don't think I see any huge difference in terms of the macro execution, right? Sometimes when you watch these games, you just see humongous mistakes being made over and over again, but it seems like there's good ideas coming out from both of these sides, and it is coming down more to who's just hitting the shots on the day. And obviously, so far, that looks like Completely Melted. We both know, though, that that could absolutely change as we start thinking about map number 2.
Yeah, 100%. Now it becomes, what do you really want to change the pace when it comes to the second map, if you really want to change the pace at all? Because obviously, you're very much open to any map or mode you want to choose that's within the pool right now. So you have a selection of, like, 16 maps that you could reasonably, or not reasonably, but you could go to. Maybe some aren't quite reasonable right now, but it becomes the question of whether you're trying to get something out of the way now that you feel like maybe advantageous to your opponent later on for, like, maps 4 or 5 if we get there. Or maybe there's a confident map that you have that you want to try to use out the gate here just to get a level of momentum. I honestly think they could go either way with it. But Spec, what would you, as the EU connoisseur here, what would you recommend in this situation in terms of map selection?
Depends on what you've been scrimming, depends on what you've been practicing. Obviously, the Queen isn't the only composition that you can play. You can also play an Orisa or a Malga. I would say that 0907, if they want to change things up, are more likely, in my opinion, to go towards an Orisa. And then they would want to play something along the lines of a King's Row, perhaps, where the Queen is kind of forced to just eat all that kind of fusion driver spam damage, eat the spears, and really exploit the lack of health pool that she has. That being said, though, if they haven't been hard scrimming that, if they have just been, practicing this Queen comp time and time again, then the world's kind of their oyster, right? The comp works almost everywhere, you know, with the exception of whatever dive maps are in the pool, I believe Dorado. So I think that they have plenty of options. It's just about what they themselves feel comfortable on, because I think trying to counterpick, especially to force your opponents off something, is going to be really awkward in a patch like this, where there aren't really any huge map geometry changes that are going to make one tank dead or not. When, you know, if you're in a Winston meta, for example, you know, if you're in a Winston v Malga meta, and you go King's Row, Winston doesn't work. If you go Gibraltar, Malga doesn't work. But in this patch, again, everyone's ground tanks, no one really has much momentum, especially until Hazard comes into the scene, right? Then it's very much an open book.
Yeah, definitely have to be what the pick is, because we're still getting that figured out away right now. But obviously, there's a couple of maps that can pretty much completely change away the pace of the entirety of the series so far. We see teams do that a lot with things like Circuit Royale, like Havana, where things very much kind of get flipped on their head. You're normally forced to go down a very specific style, and that's some of the way with dive maps as well. Like I said, you mentioned that Dorado, which is a little bit easier to kind of maneuver around nowadays, but either way, gonna have to figure things out, and I am a very pleasantly surprised man, because I had Flashpoint sitting in the back of my head special, and I was like, there's no way they go to it. There's no way they go to it and just recommit to a Queen Mirror, right? Well, it turns out, that might be the case, because Cerebos are gonna be our second map, gonna be knocking out Flashpoint, and in turn, Clash here with this pick.
I definitely think it's a pick that, as you mentioned, shows they want to play back into the Queen Mirror. I think, obviously, in terms of what is normally played on Cerebasa, last patch was either the Queen or the Malga. This patch is very likely to be more so the Queen. As I've said time and time again, I think a lot of teams, Malga really didn't click for them. And I think it's much easier to execute with that Junker Queen, especially because so many teams have so much experience with it. But 097, by the looks of things, want to change things up. Obviously, early days yet. They have been baiting in spawn, but this is a very valid strategy for them to play as well. Bones would probably move towards the Reaper here, but Genji would also work. And then you would play for early hits onto Depsy, really just ruin the day of the completely melted tank. And if you're completely melted, then you're looking to play for an extended fight as long as you survive that initial cycle. Then the Junker Queen healing and your DPS value should find a little bit more work. So it is going to be the mirrored DPS lines. Everything else, though, a mix of old and new.
Yeah, and this is going to become, complex for both sides here right now, because the question becomes who's going to want to play faster, and the answer, realistically, I think, is going to want to be completely melted in this situation right now. Skarama has been taken out very early on right now. Daki getting very low, but does have the care of their break sitting by. And now, realistically, they should be able to take point without any issue. And now, completely melted, have to decide how they want to approach this.
Yeah, no reason to take the risk in trying to clean up that 4v5. Instead, you can just back off, you can just get first cap, and then you can repulse completely melted as they try to walk up, because that's going to be the main weakness of both these comps, really. Closing the distance is just so damn hard.
Yeah, definitely going to be right now. Already Dempsey kind of struggling. Has to use the shout early on as D-Crew's going to decommit a little bit in this situation right now. And it can be very hard to walk into a Malga, especially with the tank right there. You can get a bunch of your health back, but already struggling a bit. Is very separated from all their squad as they're going to chase them down, but the mega health back is not there. So Willie's still sitting at super low health right now. Completely melted. Is working their way over towards the point as eventually Willie's gonna hit the recommitment in this situation right now. Use the cardiac overdrive to be able to get some of that health back as Krama again will be the first person to go down by Convi right now. Is really hanging around, putting themselves in a perhaps an undesirable place right now, but is gonna result in a kill. And at this point for 0907, I don't know if you can win this fight now.
No, you can't win this fight. You can't get another touch. Market's going to go 100-0 in favor of 0907 here. They've done a fantastic job just shutting down Completely Melted. And you know, in theory, Completely Melted are playing the counter comp to this. Maybe things will be different once the ults come online, once Depsy's Rampage in particular comes through, because obviously you think back to Lijiang Tower, I was speaking about how the sound barriers could be mirroring out the Junker Queen ultimate. You take a look at 0907, obviously they have no counter to it now, so they can either pre-rally or perfect shield it. Neither of those are particularly optimal.
Yep, 100% here now. And see if Daki's going to be willing to invest with the Orbit Array and take the words right out of my mouth, because they indeed will go for it here. And it's going to result in what will be a very quick fight right now as Tomic's going to try to get out. Won't be able to. D-Cruz wants to get out. Is going to at least take a trade, but either way, 0907 takes the point once again.
Fantastic understanding of the ultimate economy there from 0907, recognizing that the counter to their Orbital Ray, that Rampage, wasn't online yet, but they could use the Ray to counteract that Kitsune Rush, get a huge advantage in that fight, and a very, very inexpensive fight win for them as they get set up first again here on Flashpoint.
Yeah, I'm going to see right now, is Cage Fight going to get activated as Completely Melted have plenty of tools to work with now. Going to use pretty much all of them except for the Blade right now. But here it comes right now. Farm Bones going to get rid of one. Going to hope to get rid of a second right now. But at the end of the day, it is going to result in, once again, Completely Melted falling apart. And this is a masterclass in this Malga comp right now. I mean, fantastically done.
Surgical, including the stagger onto Decros that they might have let go. But yeah, we'll be able to survive at least 4 now. Both teams obviously invest heavily, but 0907 still just using the perfect amount to maintain some sort of lead. This overclock from these defensive sidelines is going to be much easier to find value with than the Blade, but Kurama individually is just nuts.
Yeah, you see the commitment to matching things once again right now, but Dempsey going to be sent back to spawn very early on right now as Condi hoping to close out this fight right now as Kurama thinks they can pull it back around. Will they be able to? They get one.
Okay.
They get 2. They gonna need a 3rd, and they have found it. Kurama gets 3. The point flip potentially coming on board, but the fight is still not over right now as Willies has got rid of bodies. The point flips right now. Dempsey has to come back to be able to help the squad out right now. Will eventually make it back as Willie no longer has the backup necessary. Is going to escape within an inch of the life as they have to set up for a re-engagement.
Like I said, the Blade is harder to get value out of, but if you're Kurama, it really doesn't matter. Fantastic Blade, battling Completely Melted back in, but with the respawns now for 0907, they need another hero moment.
Yeah, right now, and Willies is going to have this Cage Fight ready to go here, so it's going to be even more difficult right now, especially when you can just shut people away right now. Orbital Ray going to be thrown inside right now, and that is the worst place you want to be if you are anybody in the game of Overwatch, inside a Cage Fight on top of your enemy Orbital Ray. Unfortunately, that is going to result fight coming to an end. 0907, 1 point away here from tying up the series.
And obviously Completely Melted made the swap over to the full mirror, over to the Malga Juno. But whilst that makes the neutral a little bit easier for them, it means that their ults are just behind, and their ults being just a little bit slower than 0907's meant that they lost that previous. This time they'll have a lead, but they're going to need to be perfect from here on out on Flashpoint.
100%. Bright side for Melted are going to have the advantage going into this fight, mainly because they do have that Orbital Ray ready. And of course, Decruise, if they want to invest in the overclock, 100% has the opportunity to be able to do so, but you are looking at using this kind of early as soon as that engagement comes through, and this would be the time, but you've already lost Rod FD in that situation. Now you don't even have to rally either, and now the question is how much you want to invest to try to win this fight if you're Completely Melted. The answer is quickly becoming, you might not need to answer and give anything else right now, so just going to be the trade out right there. And to be honest, in that situation, only having to use one ult for that fight win, you take that.
Yeah, because in this next fight, for example, you've got so many options. I would expect something like a Cage Blade, just anything to restrict the movements of 0907. But like I mentioned, they have the options. That's why deciding on a fight plan for them is a little bit harder. 0907, they need Bones to go kind of nuts, or they can slow play for an overclock. Neither of them are particularly palatable.
Yep, Play's gonna get used in the middle of the cage fight once again. This is the pain you experience when you go into a cage fight in for 0907. Gotta take a reset. Completely Melted, getting some momentum back on their side.
And this Malga comp, I gotta say, is so much more electric. Now we have some really interesting DPS fragging. I mean, casting this is an absolute joy. Again, same sort of matchup's gonna happen, but this time Completely Melted have less of an advantage. I would expect them to probably play back on point, overhook first, and then rally once their opponents get close.
Yeah, and the question is how much Willie wants to invest here. Has to be able to use the Cardiac Overdrive very quickly right now as Condi thinks they can get away with getting a pick or two right now, so he needs to be confident, and there should be reason in that sense right now as they solo, I believe they solo cage fight T-Cruise in that situation. That is going to result in the flip, but that seems like a bit of a heavy investment to get one pick.
Yeah, it's very spiteful. They really didn't want the hit scan finding much value there. D-Cruise just gets down and snapped. But when all is said and done, obviously a heavy spend. They do get control of the points, and now it is Completely Melted on the outside, looking in doubles the portals, going to make this fight somewhat tricky. But if D-Cruise can find a similar amount of value to Condi with this OC, then Completely Melted are by no means out of the running just yet.
Yep, 100% the case right now. This is a very important fight, but 0907 has most important ultimate on their case right now. It's going to help everybody else. They're going to push forward right now, and it's going to force the back out here. Completely Melted doing a really good job of just pulling back and taking a quick little reset.
Indeed. It sucks that D-Cruise doesn't find the value that you're looking for, but at the end of the day, you get that Ray out, you can maybe finish a Kurama Blade, and you could push in later, but no, great aggressive move.
Yeah, now somebody has to touch here. With the orbital ray, the door is going to open up as everyone's going to try to back out to the best of their ability right now. No other ults on the table right now. It's all going to be a dry fight to see who is going to get there. Of course, touch going to come online here. Overtime is going to be activated right now. So 0907 need to try to keep this going right now. And getting rid of Atomics is a great way to stop all the heals from coming through. And it's all falling apart at the hands of Khan. He got the 3K and everything falls apart. Just Kurama trying to create some kind of stall. The blade is ready. Unfortunately, the blade is not ready to walk into that. So 0907 gonna take a 3-0 here on Surabasa at the time of the series.
Yeah, that is such a script flip from what we saw in Lijiang Tower, right? I mean, Lijiang Tower is kind of close. Obviously, the lead ends up going to Completely Melted on that Junker Queen mirror, but once we move over to the Mauga, you know, either the Mauga v Mauga or Mauga v Queen, then it seems like a totally different story. Obviously, we get to see, you know, there's some contest from Completely Melted. This blade from Kurama shows it pretty adequately, but it's just not on the same playing field, realistically. 0907 are so strong at executing on this. Their ult rotations are perfect. These fight plans are beautiful. That early rally to not Completely Melted off their balance was fantastically beautiful. And now we seem to have our narratives pretty firmly set up in this game, right? 0907 going to try and play the Mauga, whereas Queen is going to be the remit of Completely Melted.
Yeah, and it's really hard to pick a map where you can make the Queen work but force the Mauga not to. In fact, I think it might even be a bit of an impossibility realistically here. So now the question is how you kind of want to shift things around. And at that point, I think there's some confidence within Completely Melted to come in here and still try to make the Mauga mirror work, because once they got things going, they did fight pretty back and forth in that situation. So maybe they want to attempt to do it again here. But again, you still have things like escort, like push on the table that maybe can lead towards some different compositions. So I think they have quite a couple of options to really pick from. But at this point, it starts to become a bit of a question of, okay, we're coming down to only like 3 or 4 choices right now. Is it something we want to get rid of now so we don't have to deal with it at map 5?
Yeah, an absolute possibility. Obviously, in terms of the verticality, like we spoke about earlier, you can't really stop them from playing Mauga. You can find maps where he's going to be a little bit more or less disadvantaged. So what you're probably looking for is a map with relatively soft corners, right? So when you think about King's Row 2nd, there are all these hard right angles that Brawl tanks really love to play around. Queen does as well, but not to the same extent that Mauga needs them, requires them, because he gets outpoked so easily because of his massive hitbox. So you're thinking about the most field-like map you can, long sightlines if you can help it, just something that really means that whenever this Mauga is going in, he's half HP or less, because that makes playing this Queen comp so much easier.
Yeah, 100% right now. And I'm looking at these maps that are still remaining. Again, we got Hybrid, Push, and Escort still on the field right now, as I'm kind of stalling away right now, but obviously we got to take some time to figure out what that is, Spectrum, because we're going to cut it to a bit of a break here at this halftime. But don't go away, because this match of 0907 Completely Melted is only going to heat up from here.
You say you wanna try, but you never do. Sugar, there's a reason why we lose. You say you wanna cry, but you never do. Sugar, there's a reason why we lose. Let's have a bit of fun till I downfall. My love, if you feel like I do right now, don't say you're on the run to the other side. My love, you say you wanna try, but you never do. Sugar, there's a reason
two teams who had themselves a 5-map affair earlier within the playoffs seem to be trending towards the same direction as we speak. Both already have taken a map away, shown a lot of their strengths and what they're willing to pull out going into this matchup. And right now, I think it's very clear what direction they both want to go to right now. And Spectreon, it's already been the back and forth battle, and now it comes down to the situation where now you need to respond in the situation, picking the correct map here, because I think in this scenario there is a right and wrong pick as to where to go to.
Yeah, I really like the choice that we've gone to. Obviously, you can see by the graphics behind us that it is Shambali Monastery. And remember, before we left, I spoke about how the Malga really struggles to walk up even more so than the Queen. I spoke about how you wanted to avoid really hard corners. And, well, Shambali Monastery does have some corners you can play around. It's not as hard for them, especially with this Malga specifically, as some other maps could be. So I think this is a very reasonable choice. I think it definitely shows that, in my mind, Completely Melted do want to keep playing this Junker Queen. But we'll have to wait and see, of course, once we actually get into that action. But if I were to play the Queen into the Malga, this is where I would take it. I think it's a great place to mount your stand to try and play your comfort comp into your opposition. But of course, as well, if you don't win this, you're going to be in a very uncomfortable spot. It's going to be 2 map picks of our 907 against you to actually try and close out this series. So going up 2-1 here for Completely Melted, to me, seems pivotal.
Yeah, it's one of those situations where you kind of really need to come away with this situation again. You never want to lose your pick. No team ever wants to have that happen, of course. And the one thing to consider as well is very likely they're going to have to start on the attack doing this Queen composition. So obviously you kind of have to set your own distance as to how far you're going to be able to go here. And we've seen multiple instances where it doesn't quite work out and you're forced to do that close hold style where you're forced to fight in perhaps positions you are not comfortable fighting in. So again, it's something we're at to see. We can contemplate all day, all night. It really will kind of can go either way once we actually really get into things here, because you could go into this first fight and maybe Queen goes out, gets a good knife, pulls them out the high ground, eliminates them, and just creates a really fast first point. It's happened multiple times before. We've seen it with our own eyes. So honestly, in these situations, you truly never know.
Yeah, I think, again, it's going to be more of a hit scan-centered map than FDPS, so I think all the pressure, all the focus we're going to take away from, Kurama somewhat, and onto that mirror, I believe, Condi going to be taking on D-Cruise, right?
Yes.
On these longer sight lines, I think, again, it's just Sojin is going to reign so powerfully over the rest of us, the Immortals, and obviously, I'm sure, Hunter, you got to see that insane Senna 2K collateral in the Calling Your Heroes match earlier. I'm not asking for some performance of that level, but that's just an example, I suppose, a sample of some of the value that this hero can provide. Our 907 of starting on this defense, starting on this Ramatra is curious. They want the Ram because the Ram is much better at a poke than any other Brawl tank, right? You can use your shield, you can use your staff, and that walk-up is going to be pretty comfortable for you. And Completely Melted, once they see this, very likely are going to be making some changes. I don't imagine they've read this. No. Farah? Ram? Sig? Okay, so they can play heavy for the poke. The Brawl's gonna suck for them, but they've got the support cooldowns to basically ruin Willy's if he tries to go for a really hard engage.
Yeah, this is going to be very, very interesting in the situation right now. Kurama, this is either going to work brilliantly or it's not going to work at all. There isn't the biggest of in-betweens in this scenario right now, but already just wants to create pressure, force the kind of supports in the most uncomfortable position possible right now, and try to come away with a pick. Unfortunately, Kandi, literally having none of it, said, no, please get out of my sky immediately, and now Completely Melted. Gotta see if Kurama actually wants to still stay on this or not. Looks like they will.
180 damage rail really stings, especially when Farah's only 225 HP. Great shot to open up proceedings, but gonna need a little bit more than that as Kurama's going to be right in the fight shortly.
Yeah, see the commitment down there right now, and that shot onto Tonks right there. Not gonna be able to take them down right now as Depsy gonna get taken down early on as well in this situation. Now Completely Melted, struggling a little bit to get somewhere. Now I think the strategy, honestly, I could see it changing very quickly after maybe one more fight.
We'll have to wait and see if they find a little bit more success, because right now they're kind of getting out-poked by a Brawl comp. Obviously, the hitbox size has even got changed recently, but doesn't seem to have affected Condi, who so far feels like has 100% crit rate with those right clicks.
I mean, yeah, it definitely has felt that way thus far right now, but obviously, The fight getting engaged right now. Remember, those punches not able to really stop, or more so that the Sigma not able to stop those punches in either way right there. Gonna go straight through the shield, of course, but either way, fight's still continuing forward right now. Kurama trying to find some value right now. It's kind of been hanging back right now as they see the investment as Conti again gonna find another final blow within this fight right now. Weird situation for Willie, but either way, another big fight and already half the time gone here for Completely Melted.
They're quickly petering out of time, and I guess in this comp, which does have really strong ults, they're pretty far away from everything. The same could not be said of 0907. Willie's rebuffed on this push, but again, all the scrutiny onto Depsy once again.
Yeah, and Depsy's just in the worst spot possible right now. Is going to get out, get the support, and now ultimates are online for both teams. In fact, everybody is sitting at 80% plus right now, so it's going to be massive right now. Flux going to get invested right now. Willie will be completely fine, of course, right now, but Depsy's still going to manage to get rid of Bones, so not going to have a blade for this one, as there's a deep engagement right now. Stomach's not able to sustain it through that, and eventually it looks like at the end of the day, 0907 going to be able to find the fix. The question is, will they be able to stabilize? Oh, no.
Whoa, that was balls. I was going to say, because Completely Melted obviously have these much better spawns. I guess they did want to go for this really fast fight. Obviously, wholesale changes. Depsy moving over to that. Ramacha Kurama on that mate. Now just looking for a hard rule fight. They recognize that the numbers still won't be there for their opponents, but they've got to scale to their opponents first.
Yep, 100%. You see how quickly Depsy is willing to, or more so, Willie is able to kind of help out and get down there when need be right now. So Completely Melted struggling right now. Depsy sitting super low, and the annihilation is going to be the cause of their demise right now, as the wall is more so cutting people off and trying to see if they can get a second right now, but the trade does come online, so eventually Willie got the back out, as it looks like finally Completely Melted is going to start making some dents in this first point.
Yeah, that they are. Just still somewhat struggling, but, you know, being able to force back Willies should be a necessary stagger kill there. Backline, I would imagine, are able to escape, though the chase shall come through. And they'll be able to get it around this corner unharassed. The real challenge, though, is going to be this next fight, this next corner. They have the Ray for it. That's huge. But if Bones manages to sneak a kill through that 65 HPS, then there could still be trouble for Completely Melted.
Yeah, because right now you're looking at the Blade versus an Orbital Ray, and to be honest, 9 times out of 10, I want to take that Orbital Ray and having more value, but it's going to come out early here. The Blade's going to go into that backline right there. Already going to be create trouble for both of these DPS right now. They got rid of one, and Bones is clearing things away right now. Zone 907 hopefully trying to find themselves the close hold and make things very difficult on the defense. And right now, it's all about getting that touch. It does get committed. Unfortunately, those Spikes are on. The fight is taken out of them as we speak right now. Just the chain trying to survive, and an Orbital Ray is going to be used to basically clear things away. Nobody going to go for the retouch, so 0907 off of the back of the amazing hold on the first corner is going to make the full hold happen.
Yeah, that they are, and never really looking to be challenged at any point, right? Completely Melted, when they find success, it's scrappy, it's ugly, it's really not repeatable is the words that come to my mind, right? And the same simply could not be said for their opponents. That was clean from 0907, clean from the Face It League champions. And now, obviously, it's a possible hold, 90 meters, you can make this happen, and I've seen it happen before, but it's going to be an incredibly uphill battle. That final fight there, where Completely Melted go for that Ray, it's not a terrible idea, but the execution, in my opinion, was somewhat haphazard. Because they send the Ray through the wall, there's a decent part of that walk where they're not receiving that healing, where the Blade can find value, and they also get very split off. A strong engage timing from 0907 somewhat restricts the rest of them from walking with the Ray, and so it like bisects, as it were, Completely Melted. They didn't really have a chance to find the full value there. If they'd swung a little bit wider, and then Orbital Raid, I think we would be looking at still the Completely Melted attack, but because we're not, instead, it's going to be the Ram, May, Ash on the defense.
It's going to be very interesting here. I think it could find a lot of value, but 0907 can approach this a couple of different ways right now. So it looks like Completely Melted is taking a big risk here in this situation to try to do for the close hold. To be honest, is it going to work out? I could not tell you. It is 50-50. You just don't want somebody like Kandi to come around the corner and instantly find the headshot and just make this an impossible fight to win. But either way, it's going to get started right away, and already not looking like the best of situations. The ice block is already used, and Kurama going to get sent back to the spawn room. And it's not how you want to draw it up. And honestly, 0907 played that exactly as they should have. And for Completely Melted, I mean, it's just a matter of time until they all fall over.
I would love to see Decruz and Kurama move back over to more standard DPS choices, right? This Soj and Genji, because I think they're so much more comfortable for them. I think they're really struggling to find impact, to find value on this Ashe Mei. And though I do see the vision somewhat, I really don't see the results. No swaps going to be made. Taking that spawn fight means that they'll have at least one really good fight left. But one fight to hold for 3 minutes, never really where you want to be.
Yeah, not the best case scenario, obviously, right now, but Completely Melted does have an ability. They can come away with a fight. We'll kind of start bringing momentum back into their hands, give an opportunity to build ult once again as the wall's going to get invested. Just try to cut people along, make a bit of chaos, but unfortunately, the chaos ain't really doing nothing to stop the progress from happening, and they're going to cap this through without any issue in the world. 0907, a dominant Shambali Monastery, and now things looking very scary for this Completely Melted squad.
0907 have been heating up this entire game, it feels like, right? They start off slow. Obviously, Suravasa goes in their favor. They look relatively in control most of the time, but here on Shambali Monastery, never a moment where their finger gets off the pulse, right? They have a great understanding of every scenario they're in. Their ult tracks look perfect. Their brawl macro looks sublime. They're executing on an individual level as well as a team one. And because of that, up now 2-1 in this series. A single map away from grand finals. A single map away from that rematch with Yurei Mirai. And as well, I mean, a single map away from eliminating their opponents. They are playing absolutely lights out right now.
Yeah, again, trying to get the revenge on the team that got them down in the sword bracket in the first place, forced them to play those 3 matches for their lives, and doing this 4th one here, of course. And now the question is, again, like you said, where do you want to go to? And the options are very much limited at this point right now, because we've got only hybrid and push here, but Spectron, we already know the map, and you know, over the last couple of days, and I said the last couple of months, we've become once again very familiar with this map. And in fact, it's sitting right here behind me. As a matter of fact, we don't even need the production background. We're gonna be going to King's Row for map 4.
Yeah, no, I think this is an interesting choice, definitely. I actually don't really see the vision here, to be honest. I think that it's going to be probably something fresh from Completely Melted. I think Queen here is relatively poor, at least compared to the other options. I think that if you try and play Ram, your opponents are just going to play Malga and your day is going to be ruined. Maybe there's a chance for an Orisa, I would probably surmise, but honestly, this one's thrown me for a bit of a loop. We'll have to hope that Completely Melted are cooking something pretty fresh for us, because unfortunately a little bit of flaccidity on the previous 2 maps has left us here. Remember, they need to take this map if they want to stay in CGL Season 14 PC Open Tier. A lot of stakes put onto just this one map.
Yeah, it can be a very scary prospect going into this, but of course you kind of talked about what they need to do here to kind of make this happen, because the vision isn't quite seen. But let me tell you, I see the vision, Spectre. I'm gonna put my NA head on for a minute, pull the mic real nice and close. Pharah, attack Pharah. That is all. That's all I've got. Attack Pharah. That's what's gonna save this team and go to map 5. Calling it right now.
I wouldn't mind it, but last time we saw it, it was just Kurama getting sent back to spawn like 3 times in a row and just swapping Mei, right? Remember that was on Shambali Monastery, just getting absolutely beans by Condi, who has been absolutely on fire this entire game. Those early moments in Shambali, especially on that Soju, were absolutely lights out. But somebody that we really did expect to be firing on all cylinders all game long, and so far has absolutely not disappointed. I grant you, will be a little bit harder to find value once we kind of leave that first point on the Soj, but still has to be considered a threat, has to be considered a problem, and has to be considered something that Completely Melted have to deal with.
Yeah, definitely going to see it right now as, again, the decision of what side to go on. If you're 0907, normally want to go on the defense first and foremost right now, as going to see what these teams want to shape around and try to make happen. Obviously, there's the opportunity for a Widowmaker to start out, just to try to get the first couple of shots in. But for 0907, this, I mean, this isn't any surprise in the world for Completely Melted. It looks like they are attempting, if things fall apart, potentially dying on the sword.
Yeah, I don't mind it. Of course, defensively, 0907 playing the same. It's worked out so well for them in the past. But as you mentioned, yeah, Completely Melted Dying on the sword is definitely one way to put it, if a little bit grim. This is the comp that they look the best on. Obviously, they did struggle in the early phases playing against the Malga on that Suravasa. We'll have to wait and see if they figured out what issues they were experiencing, because in terms of the map geometry, King's Row is really not any better for it. Again, they can win off these ultimates, they can win off of surviving the initial cycle, and they can win off D-Crews absolutely clapping bones.
100% the great start you're hoping for as Willie is all literally in the background right now, or more so the back line, more so to say right now. So a tick's gonna come through here, and honestly, I want to see more than one tick come through. As 0907 is a little stuck right there in the back line. They can reinvest though, let's be real. They got 100% retouch. They're going to get their Genji, the Juno back in there. It's a winnable fight. Is it winnable by much? Not really, no, but going to see if you can find an early pick to maybe make something happen right now. You see the 4-star right there, Bones, but you're going to get taken care of right now. It's completely melted. 2.5 ticks right now. The last couple of touches going to come through right now, but unfortunately, it could be falling apart. Is Cardiac Overdrive going to be invested, but all the heals still very much there for the squad. No matter how low they get, they're supporting each other brilliantly so, and Willie is just running out of health as things keep going right now. A beautiful job, but unfortunately gonna get off the point right there. Unfortunately, not gonna be able to win out the fight. And not for completely melted. The fight start, you won it.
The hero of that recontest has to be Tom X there, who did such a great job keeping D-Crews alive. Would have been a necessary first domino for 0907 to find, but as he doesn't fall, then so do 0907 completely melted. Get the cart rolling with a pretty comfortable time bank, and whilst the orbital ray is online, that's a rampage to match is getting closer and closer on the horizon.
Yep, 100%. Tomic's already going to have this Kitsune rush around the corners. They decide to go in with a very quick, aggressive style orbital race. So it's going to go straight across right now. Kitsune rush going to be given by Tom X right now. Unfortunately, it's not going to be able to keep Depsy alive. So for 0907, it's about keeping all of your people alive and be able to reset together. So they're going to back up just a little bit before they re-engage once more.
Yeah, still angling for a fight, though. Both teams still want a biff and brawl.
Yeah, I mean, Karama is going to go in with the blade in the situation, kind of swiping into the air. Will eventually get rid of Bones, and now another big fight win for Completely Melted, getting this thing running away. And for 0907, it's already starting to look a little scary, because if they don't win this next fight, this could just keep snowballing.
You need to, well, cage really early, but Willies doesn't even have that. If you can build the cage when you walk up cage Depsy, then you're in a pretty good spot to win out this fight. If anything other than that happens, though, I would expect Completely Melted to be rolling into third with a gargantuan time bank.
It's gonna get stopped. It only hits Willie right now, who's got to be kept alive right now, but the heals won't be able to hit right now. But it's the double investment, the triple investment by 0907. The beat only going to be temporarily keeping bodies alive, as that cage fight only managed to capture one. Win eventually going to go their way, but both teams investing heavy on the fight right there. As might have missed it in that sense, but it was indeed the Ajax. Unfortunate situation for Completely Melted.
I'm not sure if that was an Ajax or not, but what I can tell you absolutely for sure is that the hero of that fight was Jonowich, right? What a bash to cancel out that rampage. Humongous value, kept the purple to just Willies, and as well stopped the easy follow-up from coming through from the Junker Queen. Absolutely coming up ginormous for his side, and 0907 now get their first stop on King's Row.
Yep. It's got to be what you need right now. Still need a 3-minute investment here, though, if they want to be able to hold them here. As they're going to go for the orbital ray once again. The same investment we saw last time that worked out temporarily, I should add, with Depsy down. First, once again, going to see if they can come away right now, as looks like Completely Melted does manage to find one on the way out, and that is bad news right there.
That's terrible news. It makes it so much easier for Completely Melted to push back in. And what's they going to do here?
Yeah, and the blade comes in right now. Bones has gotten rid of one. Unfortunately, does not have the redash right there. And unfortunately, they need to kind of just full invest in the situation to try to they can find something now. Karama gets super low, but Bones has to focus on living right now as they're super low. And Willie, if they drop down, that is going to be very, very devastating right now. Unfortunately, it's happened. So now, I mean, 0907 just need to kind of commit and die in this situation to try to get some bodies on the way out. And that is not going to happen.
Does get some time off the bank, but in terms of the ult economy, I'm not a fan of that from 0907. Use the Ray, get very little for it in response, and you're trading 1-for-1 outside of the spawn. Of course, Completely Melted are going to win things out. Coming up on 5 check marks here. Another chance for them now to get it through to third.
Yeah, let's see whether or not that's going to be the case or not right now, as, like I said, ults on both sides right now. Completely Melted coming up on all 5 in time right now, but the cage fight has been invested. The beat's going to come online right now for the Completely Melted squad right now as D-Crews Gonna see if they can pull their team across the line of victory right now, but already Depsy has been taking care of D-Cruz in a rough scenario, getting all the heals, all the care in the world, but still needs to try to find the pick to get their team back into this fight. And unfortunately, Bones is cleaning things around for 0907. 1K, 2K, 3K, count up! Gonna be another big fight win here for 0907.
Both teams, again, obviously throw the kitchen sink at one another. If Depsy lives another 3 seconds, though, that could be a totally different fight for Completely Melted. You finish the Rampage. It's such a huge swing, pendulum in the fight. But instead, Fools and one of the big individuals of Completely Melted no longer being active means that unless Kurama goes for a blade, they can't win things out and holds onto the blade. This, though, could be their moment.
Yeah, they're going to go through. It's going to catch on to only one person, but Willie, again, is kind of the main target you sometimes look for in the situations if you can drain them away. But here comes Kurama coming away with the blade right now. Has gotten rid of one. Is going to find the two. Is going to be able to cut them away. Is only going to be able to find the three, but it is more than enough to get this car rolling in now for 0907. Could be the end of their second point hold.
Again, it's Kurama who's the hero, just comes up diabolical on that Genji, a 3-piece 1v4 almost. Fantastic work with the Dragon Blade to buy that time bank extension. That minute and a half that was won with his blood, sweat, and tears. And 0907, having spent none of those, now walk into these next 2 fights with everything they could ever ask for. Like, Christmas came early in terms of their ult bank.
Yeah, now Depsy over on that Orisa to try to get things working away, trying something different here as Bones thought about going for it. He's gonna think better of the situation right now. So again, you see right now, I mean, D-Cruz not shy about being up there. Unfortunately, it's gonna cost their life right now as the trade comes through right now, and it's honestly pretty 50-50 as Completely Melted. They're taking the reset anyway, so they're perfectly fine with this quick reset.
Yeah, they get the Orbis Array out as well in a fight where they realistically were going to be behind. Obviously, we see the Orisa come out for Depsy. It makes sense on these sight lines. Cage is spiteful.
Yeah, but Raw 50 is not quite there right now. It does have the beat ready to go right now. Remember, the beat does drop quicker, but unfortunately, not even going to try to pull the trigger in the first place, as that's going to be another fight loss for Completely Melted, and for Depsy, very likely the late death. So now, maybe I think only 2 fights left for them, realistically, in this situation.
One good fight. The Overclock gets him out of spawn. I will say I'm not a huge fan of 0907's ult bank, but nobody looks to go down as of now. Completely Melted still with advantage.
Yeah, Rally gets used as well right now, and the beat's gonna get vested though, and unfortunately Willie is in the middle of nowhere right now, as eventually Roth is gonna go down in the situation right now. The trades are still coming back and forth right now, but eventually is 0907 with another big cleanup. So now one more fight on the board and Completely Melted. No ultimates on quite yet.
I think they're going for this kind of semi-quasi spawn hole because they want to be Willie's ineffective range all the time. It's very, very risky though, and Completely Melted now come up for a pull blade. Double flex backline is going to make it a lot harder for Willies to be that free.
Yeah, right now, but I do like it right now because that's the reason why the nade is so big. Willie not able to sustain themselves well in that anti-situation. So now just the reset. 0907 has to back out, has to plan for one more fight.
Yeah, they use the cleanse there to survive the hit, and then the Ana cooldowns to bully it. The Zarya makes sense. You want to cleanse the Ana cooldowns as quickly as possible. You need the ability to live as well into the onslaught that Completely Melted are going to bring. 3 check marks, and they're looking to start now.
Yeah, right now Kurama does have a blade ready to go. Could be the hero that Completely Melted is going to need, as D-Cruz has already been taken care of right now. Rough scenario, while Depsy did get that ult ultimate, it's not going to result in anything. Unfortunately, the blade doesn't even end up getting pulled either. It's just coming down to Tomex trying to make something happen with this Kitsune rush right now, but unfortunately, it's a rough situation. Depsy survived for so long, but it's not going to be long enough. Completely Melted fall apart on the last corner of King's Row, but still, it's a respectable distance and very much a holdable distance.
I've definitely got to agree with you there, Hunter. Obviously, they could have had more considering what their time bank was when they capped first, right? It was like, 5+ minutes at one point. But I think this is a distance that you've got to be happy with, especially considering how much trouble you had, actually getting through to the 3rd section at all. And I do think 0907, as I mentioned, were somewhat shot in the foot by their heavy ult expenditure close towards spawn. It meant that when Completely Melted basically just survived long enough for the time bank to get low, they had enough check marks to at least force it round another corner. But, when all's said and done, it did burn the time bank off of 3rd point, and it did allow them to find this stop. So you can only criticize it so much. Completely Melted, of course, starting on the Queen defense, but this Kiri Juno backline is very funky. You've got a lot of sustain, obviously, for your front line. Your back line, however, is incredibly squishy. So Bones could have an absolute field day if he gets access to any of Decruz, Rod, and Tomex.
Yeah, definitely gonna see if that's gonna be the case or not right now. I see Bones kind of contemplating going out on the Widow to see if they can find the opening shot, which it's what happened for Completely Melted last time. Decruz came out on the Sojourn, just instantly found a pick right as they turned the corner, and it made that first fight much easier to win. But gotta think different of it and go back over to the Kenji and the Sojourn, respectively, between Bones and Kandi. Now it's all about making a good first impression here on this first point.
Indeed. See how that's going to work out as the early spam continues. Tomex forced cleanse out early. Not what you love to see. And Depsy's stuck on some of an island.
Speaking of being stuck on an island, yeah, definitely not the place you want to be right now. But again, gonna come down to a lot of these Sojourns and Genjis to be able to make something happen, try to get somebody out of position. Unfortunately, it's one of the Genjis that is out of position right now as the trade comes through. Again, trade's gonna be better in this situation for 0907. The spawn's way closer in this regard right now. So tanks battling against each other right now as Depsy gonna get swatted down like a fly, and now opening up a situation for Completely Melted. They have to reset if they want one more fight.
I mean, they need to stop the walk with the damage threat there, but if Kurama and Decruz can't find access, then there's just no real damage threat. They could try and recontest. I think it would be ill-advised for Completely Melted. I imagine they would just go for Archhold here, and it looks like they won't, actually.
And Tomex, before they even get to the point, get taken out right now. So Kurama is the lone person still at the point, and now the rest of the Completely Melted decide, you know what, we actually don't like this idea. We're actually just going to get out of dodge and take the reset.
It's not a terrible idea when you're 5v5. It's still not something I'm a crazy fan of personally. But once it actually comes down to a 4v5, once Tomex gets his batch, there's no chance. You have to back. And the ability to back safely has been something that Completely Melted have been strong at all series long. It's basically just been that and Kurama that have been their bright lights as 0907 have been manhandling them, especially in some of these neutrals. Cart's getting a lot of free progress here. They would have loved to get that Archhold, but instead going to have to fight around the bookshop and the pub.
Yeah, definitely to see right now as important fight coming online as Decruz has already found some impact for the team. Continue to rush, or more so in this situation, the orbital ray going to be used here by 0907 to try to secure it back to fight. Yeah, this was an interesting investment, but I mean, it works out. I can't be mad.
It's just a really weird fight plan there from Completely Melted. Their backline is full zoned by one Genji, whilst their DPS go all the way into the backline. So 0907 exists in an island between both flanks, and because the split is suboptimal, they exist in a spot where they can punish either one. Decruz is going to have the worst dagger known to man, and now with 4 minutes on the time bank and a 4v5, Completely Melted have to try and put together some miracle of a hold here on second.
I am stunned by that ideology, but Completely Melted does have the options to invest to try to bring this one back right now. Cage fight gonna get deleted very quickly right now as the Blade's gonna get invested right now. No two ways of being able to really stop it in this situation right now. No rally anymore as Kandi and try to bring it back for their squad right now. Depsy Kurama getting low right now, but Depsy back to full health thanks to the double lineup here right now. Is gonna go through a Kandi in a direct course to be taken down while the trades. And while the trades are still coming out, eventually it is going to go down. So while they had the costly stagger before, they do have to heavy invest to make up for it.
And they need to find a stagger now onto Jonovich, exactly what they're looking to do. Not too many boops and won't have much chance to find more, but yeah, just able to keep that Brigitte alive for an extra 10 seconds or so. That is time off the bank. That does restrict 0907 to about 3 fights. But they do have plenty of work to do still. They obviously expended everything, so Bones' Blade now the only threat on the field. One in the favor of 0907 that could spell the end of this map.
Yeah, could be right now. It is a big Bones Blade potentially going to be online for the next fight. Nothing to stop it. Again, good situation, and they're thinking about it. They are going to pull the trigger. Cleanse is still there right now as no dash has been expended right now. Depsy in a rough scenario will eventually get taken out. Bones going to hit the deflect right now. Just make sure they stay alive, keep themselves going right now. And unfortunately for Kurama, not going to last much longer as Stall's going to come on one at a time. Unfortunately, that is all it's going to be is Stall and 0907 have a 4-minute time bank. Only 54 meters is standing between them in a grand finals appearance.
Yeah, fantastic play there from 0907, recognizing that they might as well just put the screws onto Depsy, whose main survivability is that hitbox, which the Blade doesn't care about. So just Blade, slam the Queen, ruin the Queen, and convert off the back of that. Now they're coming up to double support ults and only have one fight left to go. Grand Finals is beckoning.
Yep, D-Cruz, let's see if they can have a moment here over on the Widowmaker. It's going to have to be a lot here if they want to be able to find the investment and make it work. But already, Tom X has gone down. The trade's come through, which again, trade's going to slightly kind of go towards the side of completely melted in this situation. But somebody has to eventually go and force this card touch right now. And at 2.5 meters, it's going to happen right now. Dempsey going to have to go for the force. And Tom X has to consider using the office as Roth FD is going to go ahead and invest right now. So they need to get back to the cart. Only a fifth of a meter, but they're in the cage fight. They're getting blown up one at a time. The revenge has been taken, and 0907 will move on to the grand finals.
Yeah, not going to be that rematch in between Completely Melted and Yuri Mirai. Instead, 0907 continue their winning ways, and in a 3-1 series this time, complete a dominant victory over their opponents. That was fantastically played from both sides, and flipping the script from that previous meta, from that previous matchup, 0907 have got to be feeling happy about that. Remember, the last time these two teams played, it was 3-2, the favor of Completely Melted. This time, 0907 have a game plan, and they execute upon it fantastically. That Malga was a thing of beauty, and even though Kurama played his absolute heart out, right, so many hero moments on that Genji, it just wasn't enough to get Completely Melted over the line. So moving forward to play against Yuri Mirai will be 0907. That's going to be your CGL Season 14 PC EU Open Finals, as yet to be scheduled. And I've got to say, Hunter, I'm so excited for that.
Yeah, more than likely going to be scheduled sometime later on this week here. Obviously, we'll have to figure out, get teams get it straightened out themselves, see what works the best right now. But either way, it's one of those situations for Spectron. We kind of sit here and we're realizing that this is it this week. This is kind of going to be the it for in terms of the finals here for season 14. It is a little sad, but I mean, to be fair, we get to experience great matches like this because this was extremely back and forth. It was very entertaining. And it became clear at the very end, 07 perhaps just wanted it more in this situation. They brought the firepower and made it happen. But either way, in this situation, Spec, obviously, big congrats here to 0907, but we are going to go to a little bit of a break. When we come back on the other side of things, should have an interview from a member or two of this 0907 roster who are going to move on to those grand finals. So don't go anywhere because we'll be right back. So they're back from the other side of a 4-map series to determine who was going to go and face Uramirai here in the AUPC Season 14 Grand Finals. And it was a back and forth affair for quite some time, but at the end of the day, 0907 getting their revenge against Completely Melted, winning in 3-1 fashion. As Petron joining us for a nice little post-game interview, going to be Daki over on the side of 0907. And first and foremost, congrats on earning your spot into the Grand Finals.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah, 100%. And obviously, I alluded to that previous matchup that happened back in the very first round of the playoffs against them, going to 5 maps. Unfortunately, not able to make it happen. So, I mean, in terms of that match, this one, what did you really kind of learn about this team that kind of made it an easier experience this time around?
I think the first time it was just like us just not being as synchronized with each other and just not having the same experience as we have now. We just got used to like the new players which came onto 0907, like Willis, and I think that helped a lot to do much better now.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, do you think there's also some changes to with this new patch? Obviously, Season 14 wasn't as sweeping as some people maybe would have liked, but do you think it's on the whole been a boon for your team? Do you think it's going to help you in the finals?
I mean, we're still struggling with like figuring out what kind of comp we're playing. So we're just still with the old kind of meta right now with the Mauga Juno brick. But I feel like overall, if we can get away from that, it would for sure be beneficial if we can play stuff like the Ram comp or the Zarya comp. Feel like that would be more comfortable for us, yes.
And then also, obviously, your opponents are going to be Yuri Mirai in that grand finals coming up soon. Do you have anything you want to say to them? What do you reckon your odds are like against them? Generally, what's the thoughts heading into this match?
I mean, I think all of us are fairly confident that we can win and we will win. But they're still very, very good players, right? I think the Piku something guy, the Ash player, he's really good. He's for sure something we need to look out for and play around, right? Because if we just if we don't care for him enough, he's just gonna wreak havoc on us. So we still gotta adapt and try our hardest. But I think if we do that, we stand a pretty good chance against them.
Yeah, definitely gonna see if that's gonna be the case or not. But obviously, it's been a long season. I mean, just in general, in your perspective, I kind of want to know what this journey on this team the last few months has kind of meant to you personally. Or how
it's been very nice, I would say. We've had our ups and downs, and there's certain situations which are like very demoralizing, like the early loss against Completely Melted. But it's been pretty rewarding, I would say. It's been pretty good. We're getting better as a team. We are figuring stuff out, and yeah, it's been pretty good overall.
Definitely seems to be the case, and obviously I want to give you an opportunity to go celebrate, get these plans out for your grand finals. But before we send you away, if there's anything you want to say personally, anybody you want to shout out, we're gonna give you the floor to do so. So you are free to take it away.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to shout out my team, of course, but especially our staff, our manager Nicole, and our 2 coaches, Loin and Juju. They've been helping us tremendously, and yeah. They've been putting in a lot of work, so I appreciate that a lot.
We absolutely love to see it. So once again, congrats on a big win here, and best of luck to yourself and the rest of 0907 going into the grand finals. All right, take care. Hey, you know what? Spec, you love to see it. You love to see it. That's all I've got for you. You love to see it.
I was expecting a little bit more there, but yeah, you do actually love to see it. Feeling confident heading into finals. There's, of course, plenty of reason to have that confidence after getting this dominant win. Looks like it is a strong patch for them. Obviously, they mentioned wanting to work in a little bit more, maybe Zarya, maybe Ram. Between you and I feel like Ram's not all that. Zarya, I have some hope for. So we'll have to wait and see exactly how that's going to play out in the server. Obviously, with our final 2 teams, though, set up for our grand finals, all we can really do is look towards the future. Obviously, all top 3 teams, I believe, will get a slice of the pie in terms of that prize pool, but you'd really love to get that first place spots. Yuri Mirai waiting in the upper finals. We'll have, I believe, first map choice, and it's going to be a first of 4 as well, which means it's going to be even longer and hopefully even more hype than this.
Yeah, definitely see if that's going to be the case or not. But again, that's in the future. Again, got to get everything set up away for this matchup. Hopefully, should be happening on later this week, just like the remainder of our matches. But in terms of today, Spectre, I don't believe we have any more matches set for this day, but we do have more coming throughout the week in this situation. But either way, thank you all very much for coming out here today, joining us here for CGL. It's going to be another long week of a lot of these grand finals, a lot of these leagues finishing out right now. So in terms of that right now, we wish you all a great night and, of course, a happy holidays.